Okay, think about this for a second. When was the last time you really felt the temperature inside your house?
Probably not recently if the system's doing its job.
Exactly. Your HVAC system, it just works, right?
Yeah.
Certainly in the background. But this tech, well, it shapes our lives more than we probably realize.
It really does.
So welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're digging into heating, ventilation, and air conditioning HVAC. Sounds maybe a bit dry.
Oh, maybe a little. But it's surprisingly fascinating when you get into it.
It is. We've pulled together some really interesting sources, stuff that looks at everything from, the absolute basics of staying warm way back when to the kind of psychological effects of living in perfectly controlled air all the time.
Yeah, the scope is pretty wide.
And our goal here isn't just the mechanics, the nuts and bolts. We want to quickly get everyone listening up to speed on the, let's say, the hidden side of HVAC, how it affects your comfort, sure, but also your health, how we even think about modern life.
It's definitely about more than just the air temperature. It reflects how our expectations have completely changed over time.
Totally. So where should we start? About the original climate control, the fireplace.
Yeah, the fireplace. It's kind of wild to think of it as the first HVAC, but in a way it was. I mean, it was way more than just heat. The hearth was like the absolute center of the home for centuries. Cooking, light, warmth, gathering.
Right. It was the focal point. It
Yeah.
picked up all this symbolic weight, too, didn't it? Home, safety.
Yeah.
Rich people had fancier ones, so status, too.
Definitely status. You see these incredibly ornate mantelpieces sometimes.
And even now, we mostly have central heating, but a fireplace still has that pull, that emotional thing. Why do you think that stuck?
Well, I think it probably taps into something really deep, you know? Fire equals warmth, safety, light against the dark. It's primal.
Mm.
Think about gathering around it, telling stories. It's baked into our cultural memory, I suppose. Even those electric fireplaces with the fake flames, they're trying to capture that feeling.
Yeah, that visual cue still works. It's funny. But let's be real. Those old fireplaces were pretty rough, weren't they? Heat-wise.
Oh, absolutely. Terrible heat distribution, really. You'd be roasting on one side and freezing on the other. And the smoke,
Right.
not exactly healthy indoor air quality.
Right. And constantly needing wood or coal is a huge chore.
A massive amount of labor, yeah. So that inefficiency, that discomfort, it pushed innovation. That leads us into the 19th century with radiators, central heating starting to appear.
Okay, big step up.
Huge. But interestingly, their ideas about ventilation were different. There was this whole open window schoolhouse thing back then.
Open window
Uh,
with central heating.
yeah, the thinking was kind of overheat the space and then flush it out with cold, fresh air to stop germs spreading. Seems counterintuitive to us now with our sealed buildings.
Definitely a different philosophy. Okay, so radiators were a leap.
Mm.
But then the real game changer, you could argue, was air conditioning. Willis Carrier, 1902.
Right. And the fascinating bit, like you hinted, is why he invented it. It wasn't for people's comfort initially.
No, it was industrial, right? Something about printing.
Exactly. He needed to control the humidity in a printing plant in Brooklyn because the paper kept expanding and contracting, messing up the color alignment. Purely an industrial process problem.
Wow, so it wasn't about cooling people down at all.
Not at first. That came later. It really took off, became widespread after World War II. And then, boy, did it change things.
Oh, yeah. I mean, think about the Sun Belt in the U.S. Could places like Phoenix or Houston have grown like they did without AC?
It's hard to imagine. It fundamentally reshaped migration patterns, architecture, where people could comfortably live and work year-round.
And just our basic expectations, productivity in summer, sleeping comfortably when it's hot and humid.
Yeah.
We just assume that now.
Our whole baseline for what's acceptable comfort just shifted completely upwards.
So yeah, the story of HVAC isn't just tech. It's about us, our expectations evolving.
Precisely. So maybe we should peek under the hood a bit. How do these modern systems actually, work?
Good idea. Layman's terms, if possible.
Huh, okay. Well, you've basically got three main jobs. Heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. That's the H, V, and AC.
Right.
Heating is pretty straightforward. You add heat. Furnaces burning fuel, boilers using hot water, or heat pumps, which are interesting because they can move heat around.
Okay, adding heat. Got it.
Ventilation is about air movement and cleaning it, bringing fresh air in, getting stale air and pollutants out. That involves ducts, fans, and crucially, filters.
Filters, we'll come back to those, I bet.
Oh, yeah. And then air conditioning is about removing heat and humidity. It uses a clever cycle with something called a refrigerant, a compressor, an evaporator coil. Basically, it absorbs heat from inside your house and dumps it outside.
Moving heat from where you don't want it to where you don't care about it.
That's a great way to put it. And orchestrating all of this is the thermostat.
The little box on the wall.
Ah!
Seems so simple, but it's kind of the brain, isn't it?
It really is the interface, yeah.
Oh.
A symbol of control. Early ones were quite clever, mechanically using strips of different metals that bend with temperature.
Oh, right, the bimetallic coil thing.
Exactly. But now we've got these smart thermostats like Nest or Ecobee. They learn your routines. You can control them from your phone. They try to save energy.
They're way more than just an on-off switch now. They're managing things.
They really are. They sit at that intersection of human behavior, energy use, comfort, even our daily rhythms.
Which brings us to keeping these complex systems happy. What are some practical things people can actually do to maintain their HVAC without needing an engineering degree?
Good question, because maintenance is key for efficiency and lifespan. The absolute #1 thing. Change your air filters regularly. Seriously.
How often is regularly?
Depends on the filter and your house pet's allergies, etc., but check them monthly and plan to replace them every, say, 1 to 3 months. A clogged filter makes the whole system work harder and less effectively.
Okay, filters. What else?
Check for obvious air leaks around windows, doors, where ducts connect. Sealing those up can make a surprising difference. Also, make sure your vents and those return air grills aren't blocked by rugs or furniture. The air needs to circulate freely.
Simple stuff, but easy to overlook.
Totally. And then getting a professional tune-up is a really good idea. Maybe once before summer for the AC, once before winter for the heating. They can spot small problems before they become big, expensive ones.
Preventative maintenance.
Exactly. And, actually using the features of a programmable or smart thermostat helps a lot with energy saving. Don't heat or cool an empty house.
Right. So what are the warning signs? How do you know if your system is struggling?
There are a few telltale signs. Uneven temperatures, hot spots, and cold spots in different rooms. Your energy bill is suddenly shooting up for no obvious reason.
Okay.
Strange noises, banging, clanking, screeching, or weird smells coming from the vents. That's definitely a call someone moment.
Not good signs.
No. Also, if it feels really humid inside, even when the AC is running, or excessively dry in winter, or if you just notice way more dust than usual, or allergies acting up indoors, that could point to duct issues or filter problems.
So basically, pay attention to changes.
Yeah, don't ignore those signals. It's not just about cost. It affects your comfort, your air quality, your health, peace of mind.
Got it. Now, you mentioned smart thermostats earlier. They learn our habits, which is
Yeah.
convenient, but there's a data side to that too, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. That's a whole other layer. These devices, they're collecting data when you're home, when you're away, your preferred temperatures, maybe even activity levels within the house.
Which is great for automation, but it does make you think, who has that data? What are they doing with it?
Exactly. It raises some pretty significant ethical questions. Data ownership, privacy within your own home.
And could it go further? Like, could the system subtly nudge our behavior? Maybe adjust temps slightly to save energy based on grid demand? Or, I don't know, learn things we didn't intend it to?
It's a valid concern, this idea of algorithmic domesticity, where machine learning starts shaping our home lives. The convenience is undeniable, but it definitely warrants asking, who's really setting the temperature and who's watching while we do it?
Yeah, definitely food for thought. Okay, let's maybe zoom out a bit. How has this constant, reliable climate control changed us, maybe psychologically or culturally?
Well, one of the biggest shifts is how we view comfort itself. It used to be, seasonal. You dealt with the heat, you bundled up in the cold. Now, for many people, comfort is an expectation, something available 24/7.
We expect that narrow temperature band, right? Like
Right.
68 to 72 Fahrenheit or around 20 to 22 Celsius.
Exactly. And that band is actually quite a bit narrower than the range of temperatures humans evolved to handle quite comfortably with, adaptation and clothing.
So living in this kind of perpetual indoor spring,
Gah.
does that have knock-on effects we don't notice?
It seems likely it could influence everything from the clothes we buy, maybe fewer layers, less variety, to our sleep. Natural temperature drops at night are actually a cue for sleep. Interesting.
Yeah, and maybe even productivity and mood. There's research into that. Plus, it's not universal. Different cultures have really different approaches.
Oh, like what?
Well, think about Japan. It's common to use things like a kotatsu, a heated table you sit under, rather than blasting heat through the whole house in winter. They heat the person, not the whole space as much.
Ah, okay. More localized.
Right. Or in parts of Northern Europe, people are often just more accustomed to cooler indoor temps. Wearing jumpers inside is normal. And in many hot climates, traditionally, the focus was always on natural ventilation, airflow, fans, rather than just sealed box AC.
So our obsession with hitting one specific number isn't the only way. It reflects values, maybe.
I think it does. It shows what we prioritize. And this tech hasn't just changed our expectations, it's physically changed our cities and buildings.
How so?
Well, as we said, AC made massive development possible in hot climates. Think sun-built cities again. But also skyscrapers, those sealed glass towers, only possible with powerful HVAC.
True. No opening windows on the 50th floor. Right. And indoor shopping malls, huge office parks, even suburban house design shifted. Less focus on porches, cross-ventilation, natural breezes, more focus on the sealed, conditioned interior.
We moved indoors, basically.
In many ways, yeah, HVAC changed how we build, where we gather, even how much we interact with the elements directly.
Now, you mentioned that standard room temperature earlier. Is it really comfortable for everyone, though? I hear debates about office temperatures all the time.
That's a really important point. The idea of a neutral temperature is kind of a myth. A lot of the standards were based on metabolic rates that are more typical for men.
Ah.
So yeah, women on average often have slightly lower metabolic rates and can feel colder at the same temperature that feels fine to men. It's not just perception, there's a physiology behind it.
So the thermostat wars are real and sometimes gendered.
They can be, absolutely. And age plays a role. Individual sensitivities, maybe even neurodivergence could affect thermal comfort needs. So that thermostat setting isn't neutral at all. It represents a norm, and someone's comfort might be prioritized over another's discomfort.
Whose comfort is normalized? That's a powerful question. Okay, beyond temperature, what about the quality of the air? Always filtered, always the same. Does that do anything to us?
Well, it creates this illusion of total sensory control, doesn't it? Odorless, unchanging air, thermally kind of numb rooms.
Yeah.
The potential downside is maybe it erodes our own internal feedback. If the air is always perfect, do we become less sensitive to feeling thirsty? Or recognizing when we're getting slightly too hot or cold naturally?
Losing touch with bodily cues.
Possibly. And maybe losing connection to the time of day or the seasons changing outside. If inside always feels exactly the same, it's like by removing all discomfort, maybe we also remove some of the richness of, embodied experience. We get numb.
Numbness as a side effect of comfort. Wow. Okay, that leads us inevitably to the big one. The environment. How does our quest for indoor perfection impact the planet?
Yeah, this is crucial. HVAC is a massive energy consumer. In most homes, it's the single biggest slice of the energy pie, easily 40, sometimes 50% or more.
That's huge.
It is. And then there's the issue of refrigerants, the chemicals used in ACs and heat pumps. Older ones were terrible for the ozone layer. Newer ones, HFCs, are often potent greenhouse gases themselves. There's a global effort to phase them down, but it's an ongoing challenge.
So energy use and the chemicals involved.
Right, plus energy waste. If your home is poorly insulated, your HVAC system just runs and runs, trying to heat or cool the great outdoors. A huge amount of energy gets wasted that way.
Okay, so it's a significant environmental footprint. Are there better ways, greener options?
There are definitely more sustainable approaches gaining ground. Geothermal systems, which use the stable temperature of the earth, are super efficient, though costly upfront. Heat pumps, in general, are much more efficient than traditional furnaces and standard ACs, especially in milder climates. They move heat rather than generating it from scratch. And then there's passive design building smarter in the first place. Orienting the house to use the sun's heat in winter, shading windows in summer, using materials that store heat, designing for natural ventilation, all that can dramatically reduce the need for mechanical systems.
So tech solutions and smarter design. But it seems like our comfort quest has this direct link to the planet's, discomfort.
That's a stark way to put it, but yeah. There's also an equity issue tangled up in all this.
How so? Access.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can everyone afford to run the AC during a brutal heat wave? Lower-income households often face impossible choices between cooling and other necessities.
Yeah, the energy bills.
Exactly. Renters might have zero control over the thermostat or be stuck with old, inefficient systems their landlord won't fix. And we know urban heat islands, areas in cities that get much hotter, disproportionately affect poorer neighborhoods and communities of color.
Making AC not just a comfort, but potentially life-saving.
It really is becoming a public health issue, especially with climate change bringing more extreme heat. Access to cooling is arguably becoming a civil rights issue in some contexts.
That really reframes it. It's not just about feeling nice. It's about health and justice.
Right. And this ties into another emerging idea, pushing back against total climate control. Biophilic design is one term for it.
Biophilic, like nature-loving?
Sort of, yeah. It's about designing spaces that connect us to nature, not seal us off from it. Better natural ventilation, using natural light, maybe allowing a bit more seasonal temperature variation indoors.
Letting a little bit of the outside in.
Basically, the idea is maybe reintroducing mild discomfort or, let's say, sensory variation could actually be good for us. Better resilience, maybe better mental well-being by feeling more connected to time and place.
So finding a balance. Can we feel the wind again, metaphorically speaking, without giving up to genuine comfort when we need it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Finding that sweet spot between resilience and refuge.
It is. This whole topic goes surprisingly deep, touching on philosophy almost.
It does, because HVAC is this amazing symbol of human control over nature, right? We make our own weather indoors.
Yeah, mastery.
But it also highlights our dependence on complex technology, on energy grids. And by tailoring these artificial climates, maybe we do detach ourselves from natural rhythms, from the skills our ancestors had to adapt.
We trade adaptability for convenience.
Perhaps. By removing the need to adapt to heat or cold, maybe we lose some of that adaptability itself. We lose the sensory awareness, the seasonal rituals, maybe. It makes you think, what does it actually mean if you never truly feel cold or properly hot or even just damp anymore?
Those are big questions to ponder. Okay, as we wrap up this deep dive, maybe we can leave our listeners with some of those same kinds of reflective questions to chew on.
Yeah, definitely. Think about your own home. How does the temperature in your space affect your mood, your routine, how you rest?
Do you notice the seasons changing anymore? Or does the climate control kind of erase those cues for you?
Have you ever lived for a stretch without HVAC? Maybe camping or a power outage or just a different time in your life? What did you learn from that?
Ooh, good one. And the classic, does the thermostat become a battleground in your house?
Mm.
Who usually wins?
Huh. And maybe, just maybe, what would it look like to try and live a little more seasonally, a little less artificially controlled? What would that even feel like?
These are great prompts.
Yeah,
And maybe one final thought to leave folks with.
go for it.
This technology, HVAC, it gives us incredible indoor mastery. But it really pushes us to ask, what is comfort, really? What's the goal of all this control? And is there a cost to demanding this perfectly static, unchanging environment all the time?
Yeah, what are the hidden costs?
Because how we heat and cool our homes,
Mhm.
it's not just about air. It's actually shaping who we become inside those walls. It's like this quiet choreography of modern life.
That's a nice phrase.
Pulling the strings on our sleep, our feelings, fairness, memory, even our trust in tech. So maybe the next time you go to adjust that thermostat, just pause for a second.
And ask.
Ask, who's really setting the temperature of my life? What am I choosing to warm up? What am I choosing to cool down? And, what experiences might I be missing out on when the air is always perfectly still, always perfectly safe?
It's a lot to think about from a simple thermostat adjustment. Remember, you're interacting with something woven deep into our history, our culture, how we experience the world. There's always more beneath the surface.
Always more to explore when we take a closer look. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.